Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming and apologize for being late. Just got slowed down. So, and rather than have a title of Dharma talk today, we'll just do mountains and rivers, which is basically what? Q&A question. I think we've done probably 30 of those over the years. Mountains and rivers, just a way of saying questions from Sangha, and now respond. I'm not sure I can answer them, but I can certainly respond to just about anything. So difficult situation with this being the Republican nominee. Supposedly they tried to assassinate him last night. So I'm not sure what any questions come up around that, the whole cultural thing. I can endeavor to address that. It's a pretty difficult situation. Let me start here.
In light of what you just said, is there any room for violence in the Buddhist path, Bowing?
There's no way to address anything like that. I mean, there's violence here. Have you ever seen a lion attack an antelope? That's not peaceful supper. Well, violence is everywhere. It's in your mind stream. You've been violent with yourself probably in the last day or two, if not this morning, by shutting something down. Did it work? No, it doesn't work. It either goes underground, ignorance, or it fights back. The other kind of suffering where you're having conflicting emotions about you don't like this, but it wants you. And that it gets exteriorized in the form of a long gun, in the form of some kind of hatred going out. And you could say there's hatred in both directions there. Every direction there's hatred. People converting their interior monologue, dialogue, whatever log it is, into passion, aggression, ignorance, some kind of dynamic happening there. So when you say, is there any room for it? That's kind of a cultural or psychological, philosophical approach to it. And I'm saying, find out who you are so you have no doubts, so that any violence that comes up in your mind stream is yours. It's not yours, the ego, but yours, this consciousness, the same consciousness that when you put your finger on the table, the consciousness that experiences that touch is not ego. Ego is added. We add on ourselves. I'm the one who's touching the table. I'm the one who has the stick. Me in my life and how I feel. That fellow who was wounded even said, and I'm quoting him, I think, but it doesn't get out, it doesn't get spread around because it doesn't really work very well for the cultural hoopla that's going on there. I don't care how you feel. I just want your vote. People don't hear that. He actually said that, did he not?
That's my understanding.
Yes. I don't care how you feel. I just want your vote. We're also doing that ourselves. We don't care how other people feel because they are doing something in such a way that we can blame them for doing something that makes us feel bad. More?
How do we, in observing all the pain and anger that people are going through over the situation, how do we help transmute that and bring more peace to it?
Don't transmute shit. Don't stop it. You can't bring more peace. Just stop covering up the peace with your dumb idea. Not you. You don't have any dumb ideas, of course. I'm just speaking to those people out there that aren't listening. So what I'm saying, it has to be done, my friends, my enemies. It has to be done with awareness. You cannot think your way out of this mess we call samsara. You cannot figure this out. And if you do, you'll continue to tie yourself in knots and to tie others in knots who get within your purview or get in the scope of your moving around. Well, I like it, they don't like it, it's good, it's bad, it shouldn't be, they shouldn't, I shouldn't, he shouldn't have. If I ever do that again, if I ever see him do that again, on and on, just a constant ramping of story after story after story that does what? It secures the false illusion that there's a solid being here. Just because there's a body here proves nothing. There's bodies everywhere. There's a body right there, flowers. That's consciousness only. And it doesn't know it because it's not separate from it. In order to know something, you have to be away from it, separate from it. Then you can know that simple relative kind of information that is not particularly helpful when it comes to transcending this world in its insanity. Be a flower if you can. This is what the image of the lotus is about. Roots in the mud of samsara and blossoms above the water in the sky. Very simple kind of analogy. It helps a little bit, maybe. So train your mind. Train your mind. Even though ego is going to say, well, you really need to get out there and be as active, and you need to protest, and you need to. I'm not saying you're saying that, but people do that. They'll come out and try to convince you that you're by looking at the wall, you're avoiding, it's called, what is it, spiritual obsolescence or some kind of crazy word. Anybody know what that is? It's very
Spiritual
irritating.
bypassing.
Come and irritate me, huh?
Spiritual bypassing.
Yes. It's stupid. No, you're not stupid.
I was just
But
giving you an answer.
Huh?
I was just giving you an answer.
No, it is a good answer. Did it feel like I was being angry with you?
No.
Good. Because I certainly was not. But yes, thank you for that response. It's using spiritual ideas, techniques, and so on to bypass the real issue, which is you need to step in and be socially active or some kind of activity. And even that's not incorrect. It's not incorrect. Relatively, it's a very, very good statement. But it takes you in a loop that goes into the social structure of things and tries to get you to correct things rather than step back even further, which looks like avoidance or bypassing. And just see this as, see what it is. Look deep into your heart, my friends. To look deep into your heart. How do you do that? Probably other ways than what I'm about to say. But sit down, hold still, be alone, distance yourself from everyone. And do this a lot every day. Go into another room, sit down, hold still, look at the wall. Or look out the window, look out at the mountain, look out at the tree, look out at the rabbits when you cross the lawn. Doesn't matter. It's the idea of holding still and just training the eyes to receive, training the ears to receive sounds, training everything, all the sense fields to receive, which is what they're made to do, which also the mind is made to do also. But what we do is because the mind is so incredibly powerful, consciousness finds whatever form it needs. And if passion, aggression arise in the mind stream of a living being, human being, it will be tempted to push, pull, and shut down, because the very nature of being a living being means that you need to eat, so you've got to find food. You need to sleep, so you need to get some rest. You need to, so many things. Procreate, however you want to look at it, there's a lot of activity going on there. And a lot of it is a kind of passion or grasping, a kind of pushing or aggression. You need to build a house, you're probably going to have to be pretty aggressive with the material you're using to build a house with. It's just, it just shows up that way. It's just that gets emphasized and becomes an extremist when the whole thing is about accomplishing something, no matter who you hurt, getting your way, no matter who, because people just don't understand how you need this and you need that. Demand. It's not about wanting something. Desire is fine. It's everywhere. It's about the demand to have what you want from another person, from yourself, from society. Heartbreaking to watch the incredible entanglement of the world that's coming and going, coming and going. So look at the knot that's in here. Look at this and do not do anything with it. Don't cover it up. Don't untangle it. Just look at the knot. Have some, what's the fancy word is humility. Have some humility about what this is. You do not know what this is. You do not know how to fix it. There is no way to fix it because it is beyond relative truth. Yet it is being covered up by that. Yes.
Sanji, during the Vietnam War, in Saigon, Buddhist monk came out and set himself afire. That was very violent. What was that act accomplishing?
Well, you remembered it. I remember that happening too. It was in 1968.
Yes,
So it was on television everywhere. So it's not for us, or for me, or for you to sit back and look at what anyone does and then go into it and say, what does that accomplish? What does it accomplish to have that attempted assassination? I don't know what it accomplishes, but what is probably going to happen is going to promote that whole situation more than anything, make it more powerful, because now we have not a martyr, but came close. So I don't know. I can't go in and look at that. I just, less is better. If I were to talk to that monk beforehand, I would say, don't do that. Don't do that. But if you said, I have to do that, then I would say, probably, as I would say to you, if you come to me and I tell you not to do something and you say, well, I have to do that anyway. Say, well, I don't know what it's like to be you. Maybe you have to do that. I don't give orders to anyone. I was certainly had a lot of experience being given orders at one time. More?
well, just a comment about violence. During some studies, I had to read a book, Japanese book on committing suicide.
Harakiri.
Yes,
You're welcome.
and it was one of the most beautiful books I've ever read.
What? Seppuku. I don't think it makes that sound. Yes, so why? Can you answer a why question? Why was it beautiful? The way it was written?
The way it was written, the Japanese literature is very poetic.
Okay, so I'm following you there, but I want you to give me a question. I mean, you can make a few more statements, but I'd rather have questions.
What does that act accomplish?
Why, am I giving the talk title, how to accomplish shit? The question for you.
No,
It's about how to be aware. I say it over and over. You don't have to be anybody, know anything. Even a relative knowledge is it works down the hallway and around the corner to find out where the cookies are stored, but it doesn't work any more than that. You have a question back there? Question? No? Yes.
View and bowing, how is stillness a dance with phenomena?
Because the phenomenon continues to move. And you receive it. The phenomenon goes this way, you don't follow it. Goes this way, you don't chase it. Goes that way, you don't ignore it. Passion, aggression, ignorance, you don't do anything with it. Unless you have to. And if you have to, then you are in motion without a mover. You're in motion without the identity of moving. It's called stillness. But you have to realize that you can't contemplate it as a concept, because if you do, we'll be here all afternoon, or no, we won't, because I won't participate in that kind of it. I'm not up here to have conversations. I might have them other places. I have them in the Hojo, face to face with somebody. I can do that, but not up here. That being said, you have a further question.
View and bowing, I associate dancing, that concept of dancing with movement. So how is stillness still a dance? I think you just answered it.
You're watching the movement. Things are moving all the time. That's the illusion. That's what entrains us. Our hands move, and you might look at this flower I just pointed out in this flower arrangement and say, well, that's not moving. Well, yes, it is. Your eyes are moving on it. Your consciousness might be looking at this, but then your consciousness flashes over here. So what I teach in the practice opening the eye mind is to help you look at something and use the awareness to do something deliberately instead of just being, which is what you're doing when you're facing the wall. You're using the awareness deliberately. So you can watch the movement, so you can get a deeper understanding of what subjectivity and objectivity actually are, that there are aspects of consciousness that are not actually separate. They just have separated. So the movement may be looking at something that's very still, but watching what is moving this way and that way in the consciousness. And it could be anything from negative feelings about something or very positive, uplifted, just to go in, or all the other nuances in between. So you're just observing the motion. Watching, have you noticed how if you watch someone dance, even though you're sitting still, depending on the quality of the dance? I love to watch dancers and any kind of dancing. I love hip hop. I love ballet, any kind of movement of the body. It's just amazing. We went to, what, years ago, we went to something up in Grand Rapids where Senshu was involved in some kind of a movement where it's a highly interpretive kind of dance. I don't know what she would call it, something else, but it was just interesting to watch someone move with music and actually kind of invent the whole thing as they went along, and that you felt included in that. Just like if you watch anyone dancing who has some skill or has some expressive, say, ability, or however you want to say it, that's why we watch that. That's why we enjoy it. We're not moving, but it's kind of a feeling of connection with that movement, even though we're sitting still. More about that if I missed what you're asking about.
Beyond bowing. What is dancing or like what is dancing if not a self? What is doing the dance?
Just movement phenomena are showing up, which are empty of a self. They're empty of an other. They're empty of a center, and they're empty of a fringe. And if you think otherwise, this is that you are entrained, trapped, or hypnotized by this illusion we call what you call, I call your life, your story, your biography, what happened to you, what happened last week, what someone said to you. All that is, if it's seen for what it is a dance. Doesn't mean there isn't pain and suffering in that. But if you're taking it, if it's being sucked into the support of an ego, a self-centeredness, Biyun, who thinks something's actually happening to her. Like we were in the Hojo, remember that 2 days ago? And you thought I was insulting you, didn't you? Didn't you? Did you think I was insulting you or not? No, not remembering that. Well, do you remember when I went out and slammed the door? Oh, how did that feel? Was it a dance? Yeah, it was a dance. But we interpret it otherwise. That's why I say to you, and I'll say it to you here today, everything, if you have a teacher, then if it's this teacher, everything this teacher does is a dance. Everything this teacher does is a teaching. And if that hurts you or upsets you, please go do something else. All I need is one student. One student, I'm a teacher. That student leaves, the teacher's gone, and there's just this. Am I trying to scold you? I am. Look what's going on in society. It's a crazy, insane world. We can't fight with that. We can't agree with that. We certainly can't ignore it. More?
Yeah, beyond bowing. So if I'm feeling hurt or upset, should I leave?
Don't do anything if you can. Did I get hurt and leave? How did it look to you at the time? Because you had you a few weeks before when we were in a conversation, got up and went out and slammed my door and knocked the knot of eternity off, so it clattered to the floor. I went out and did exactly the same thing. Did you remember that right away, or what did it take you a while to look back and say, that seems very similar?
This feels familiar.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. All this verbiage, and that's all I'm saying. It's a mirror. The teaching, if you come to the teacher, not because he, she, or they are so wonderful and they're just thinking back, let's see, Gabe was having this one particular kind of trouble. Let's see if I look at him this way. That will be like a mirror, and he will see how confused he is. No, a teaching person is not separate from you or from your mind or from consciousness. And if you think otherwise, then fine. The whole world is billions of people think otherwise. Not a problem. But if you want to receive the teachings, you're going to have to look closely at what this is. And you may need somebody to point at it. See how proud of myself I am? I can't get away from anything. that you're stuck with. And I don't mind. You're stuck with your feelings, your emotions, your gunk. Me too. I have it too. I have a really intense negative karma. Otherwise, I wouldn't have ended up in the Marine Corps. Because how do I deal with this, all this anger and rage? I'll go somewhere where they value that and they show you how to use weapons and kill people. So there's nothing to escape from. You have to see it. And each person here has some people, what I'm saying really makes sense, and they're going to take it, say, the conventional, take it to heart and endeavor to practice and continue to think of this person as their teacher. And maybe somebody else here will think, oh, this is just too much. I need to go find a teacher who teaches in a different way. I'm encouraging you to do that. I'm not trying to chase you away, but this is not easy. And I don't have time to water anything down. Like I can't. I don't have a choice there. Further questions? Any questions on Zoom?
Adriana bowing.
Go ahead.
Sokuzan, what is the demand? You said that it's not about the desire. The desire is fine. It's about the demand. What is that demand? Bowing.
It's just self-centeredness, ego. Demand, it needs, it has to have it. There's nothing wrong with desire. But you'll notice if you desire something, you'll notice that you can actually desiring something feels quite good. It's an emotion, feeling of desire. Sometimes the kind of desire with whatever, with food or sexual activity or having our way in some particular area is really intense. And sometimes we have to have that. We've got to have it. We can't go any further unless we get what we want. Desire, clinging, second noble truth. We want it. We don't want that. We want that. And that better go away so I can have that. And so the demand part is the thing that makes the warfare in here and out in the world. And if someone can have that, and one of the ways to cover that up is if you become powerful, you start inflicting others with your unexamined aggression because you think it's actually them that's the problem. So you start trying to control them. Sometimes that's happening with the whole country. But in our personal practice, Adriana, we would just look at the demand. If we're demanding something change or be different, insofar as you can, that's your practice. Then sit still and observe the demand without explaining it, passion. Without turning away or distracting yourself from it, ignorance. And without aggression or trying to push it down, stop it, make it go away. I don't want to have that feeling of demand. I don't like desire. I want to be desireless. All the kind of arguments, and the ego is right there trying to figure out, calculate. And unless you have a teacher, you'll continue to spin. Am I condemning you to something? No, I think it's possible for people to spontaneously realize without a teacher. Very, very unlikely. And someone who is realized isn't necessarily going to act like it. I don't act like I'm realized. Am I realized? I don't know. I don't have any idea. The only way I know I'm a teacher is if I get a student. And that's why I'm saying, make my life easy, leave. I'm joking, of course. You can hang around, I'll help you. I don't know that I'm a teacher unless I have a student. It's very, very, very much I don't know how, I don't have words for that. And also, I'm not encouraging you to go away. I don't need to make my life easier. I'm saying it for your benefit. There's no propaganda here that I know of. I can't convince you of anything or give you a promise of anything, or no promises. You may train the rest of your life and never realize your true nature. That's possible. But there's a lot more than just the rest of your life. If you think otherwise, you're welcome to your idea, your opinion, your presumption about things. There actually isn't any end to anything. Go ahead.
And you're bowing, what is our true nature?
It's not separate from anything. Not separate from this table, from this flower, from this voice, from this earwax. Not separate from anything anywhere. Separated. Fingers are separated, but it's a hand. One I often use because you can move this finger and this other finger knows nothing about it. It appears. But there's no way you can take this finger away from this hand and still have a hand. A complete hand, you can't do it. This is a ultimate cooperation. This. Yes,
When you're bowing, are there any results from seeing our true nature bowing?
it's addressed relatively, yes, you stop searching. You're not looking for something else, because you're looking at what this is. Like, very much like looking in a mirror. Not exactly, because the mirror is over there, and this is not over there. More. Good question, don't stop.
When you're bowing in this. Not separateness, there's appears to be lots of separations. Is that just a projection on our part, bowing?
It's an illusion. It's an illusion, and we add stories to it about should be, shouldn't be, they shouldn't. Look at all the stories that are happening about this attempted assassination, just tons of speculation about everything. Just it's very tiring to listen to the news more than 20 minutes, even though it's about a pretty serious situation. It's just a lot of rehashing everything, speculation. You don't need to speculate. Take your speculating mind. You don't have to stop it. Just take it to the wall and just watch the speculation eventually just die down until you eventually realize what this is. I point here not because it's a location. I don't know where else to point. Point here, right here. It's right here, right in you. That's where you see it. You don't see it out here. This is an illusion. You have to look here before you'll know what this is. But first you have to know what or who this is. Further questions are welcome if you have.
Shadow bowing. What does it mean to be a monk here in this community?
No, I'm not sure what you want to know. What does it mean to be a monk? It's different for every person who's a monk. This environment shows up differently to you as it does to Sokuzan or to Unyo. It's very different for everyone. But what do you want to know? Ask me that question.
I don't know that I can go into it more.
So there's something there that you want to know, and you're using that. Nothing wrong with it. You're using that question to elicit a response from me that will help you understand something more clearly that you want to know. Tell me what you want to know. You should be able to do that. In fact, you can do that. If you sit there much longer, I'll tell you what you want to know. Stop grinning at me.
Shadow bowing. What is commitment to a community? Bowing.
Well, it's a relative situation. You commit, but you're not blind to everything. So it doesn't mean you do it like when I say do it no matter what. I'm not saying you should shut down on the causes and conditions, the relative situations that are coming and going. But not just some kind of, it's not like a cult where you just do what the leader says no matter what. I'm not saying that. It can look that way, but go ahead.
Shadow bowing. More context. I'm just considering what does it mean if we've made a commitment or received lay precepts or monastic and like things come up in our family or home situations back
Yeah.
home.
Which they have in yours extensively. How is that being handled by this person who is supposedly the habit here?
I feel like you've given me a lot of space and you usually put everything back into my
I do.
court to look at that.
And space is not mine to give any. I don't give anybody any space. You tell me what you need. You come to me and have the courage. Whether you're a monk or whatever, you come and tell me what you need, and I will do everything I can to help you with this. If you look closely, you see that's what I do. Not because I'm such a wonderful, dedicated saint or something like that. It's just because I'm not separate from you. There's not a separate being here. I feel somewhat separated when I get up to walk because I can't walk as well as you can. This body's coming apart, but what this is not coming apart. Why? It was never put together. Who this is not an accumulation of anything. That's ego. It's accumulation of ideas, thoughts, opinions, judgments, evaluations, criticism of society, criticism of what your mom said 3 years ago. That it's like a rock tumbler going around and going. Go ahead.
Shadow bowing. Do situations that pull us away from the relative practice situation here, are those at odds with our vows
Of course not. They are your vows. Those are your vows. It is the vow. More about it if you have, that will keep coming.
What's the pain or the almost like guilt that comes up when I have to go?
It's just, it's ego. It's just right and wrong. The ego is still laboring over the right thing to do, the wrong thing. I shouldn't do that. I need to do this. So to some extent, that needs to be watched rather than shut down on. Shut down, you can actually ignore that. Most of the world, I wouldn't say most necessarily, but a lot of the world is just shut down on the whole right and wrong because they're so clear about their opinion, their idea, their judgment. Try to have a conversation with one of these people. It's easier to have a conversation with somebody who's hooked up in right and wrong, because at least they're somewhat reasonable and they can tell you why some things are right and some things are wrong. But the person who's completely sealed off from that, then that person just operates out of a extreme ignorance, that they don't even feel any pain because ignorance works so well to just shut everything down. But what do? They completely miss their life. They can live the rest of their life being a dictator. Nothing bothers them. Other people's suffering and pain that's them. Those are vermin.
Shadow bowing. Some of us are being asked to step up into some more formal positions to help people step back from those.
Yes,
And at the same time, I'm being pulled in different directions too. And
sure.
how do I relate with that?
Haven't we been talking about that? We're talking about when you're gonna go back and see Ash, and Ash has your girlfriend has her considerations about what her health, I don't want to say too much about it, it's personal stuff, but she's in a life-threatening situation when you say, yeah, so she might not be here in a couple of weeks. I doubt that she's listening to this. So it looks like that's a pretty important situation for you to be there with her and be supportive of her. But also look at the situation and be genuine, be direct, say, I can't do this. You can't function as the or the shoe saw or whatever functionality or however that's crisscrossing over. I don't even know where you're all at with it right now. But just say what you can't do. I've tried to orchestrate that a little bit, but it's I'm not particularly a good administrator, let's put it that way. So that's something we can talk more about in private, but you can do it with your awareness. I'm not going to object to you. Then you have to ask for it. I recently had someone say that they come to the Hojo door and say, it's closed. I said, well, did you knock? I can't remember a time when I have not opened that door if somebody knocks. I might say, wait a minute. I might be in there masturbating or something. Why is that so funny? I'm not up here to impress you or prove anything to you. I'm up here to teach you. If you're ready to hear it, it's probably not going to be easy. Because if you're wound up in the knots I was not wound up in my life, this is going to take some major surgery. Not me doing something, but you look at your mind stream, please. Don't go from here for the next 3 weeks, 3 years, 30 years, and slowly cover up until the final cover up, which is dirt on top of your head. Go ahead. And by the way, I don't masturbate. FYI.
You and bowing. If we have the courage to come to you and ask for what we need, how does giving us what we need help us see that we don't need anything?
I may not give you it, but you have to ask so that then I can relate to you as a student. But if it's reasonable, if it's a reasonable request, something I can do, I will do it. But also if it's something that I might say I can't do that. I have to do this or this. It's very, very situational. The advantage that, if you want to call it an advantage, that the teaching person has is that he or she, I need to include that because there are a lot of teachers. He, she, or they, if they're a true teacher, doesn't operate out of what they want or don't want. They don't operate out of an ego-centered situation of I like it, I don't like it, it's good, it's bad, it should be, it shouldn't be. They're not wrapped up in what the student often is wrapped up in. So therefore they can be very clear about their response. More about it if you have it. It's a good area.
You and I, how can working with needs and wants and becoming more clear about that show us our true nature?
Come on. Help me with that. It's like plunging my head down in soap suds and saying, why are you having trouble breathing? It's clean. Perfect logic. Logic, right? Tokugawa, very logical, wouldn't you tell? Except for that one time. You see, I'm saying. Just be very clear. What is it you want to know? And I will respond, just like knocking on the door. I'm going to open it. I might say, just a minute.
I'm not sure what I'm.
That's good. That means a lot to me to hear you say that because you're somewhat acknowledging that the way you asked that question was kind of a fabrication. That actually wasn't, you weren't being sincere with me. I did that to Coben. And it took me years before, 10 years, three months, 6 months before he passed away to realize that I was, this person was teaching me instead of just being difficult or hard to get along with or dismissive. Didn't you?
Showing, along with the Hojo door being closed, there have been other maybe relative walls put in place, like our interviews are scheduled for 20 minutes now, whereas before they were never scheduled,
How long was your last interview?
probably an hour,
I wonder why.
because I don't care.
Is that true?
I don't know.
Okay, go ahead. Pardon me for interrupting, but I wanted to say, I can't remember you ever being limited in anything. But we have a form and then we observe it. And the way we observe it is either go beyond it because the situation requires it. We need the form, we need a building, but we don't stay in the building forever. We go in and out of the door. We have a form in here where people sit and they do it a certain way. And if people come in wearing bright red clothing instead of dark or subdued clothing, they can do that 1 or 2 times and then they're asked to dress down a little bit. But it's not incorrect. It's just trying to get someone used to this form. What is your question?
When there are these relative obstacles, it seems like that can bring up some cultural fear of interrupting or not wanting to be disrespectful to others when there's a schedule to follow.
Mhm.
So how, if we have to go through all of those things that show up just to get to you, I'm wondering if how that's helpful, or is it disrespectful to disregard the 20-minute time slot I'm given and go an hour long when there's other people that have been scheduled?
I think to do too much thinking about it, you're with a teacher and that person, in this case, this person, they kind of know what their whole dynamic is. So it's just so variable. It's so different with each person. Some people, it's just they leave before the 20 minutes. So is that enough? And so I guess don't have any more questions. They bow and leave or prostrate and leave. So it's a very situational. So the area that you're asking about, I'm even saying that's very situational, and maybe look at the degree to which you are being held back from seeing what the actual situation is by your belief in right and wrong and should be and shouldn't be, or disrespect. A lot of times that whole area is not based on what's actually happening. It's based on following a standard. Don't follow standards, but don't ignore them. We have standards in here. If you come in here and practice for a week, you'll see that they're very definite. The Hanan bell rings at a certain time, 15 minutes before sitting. Is set up very much so that you can be anywhere in the building, if you have ears, and know when things are happening. So it's about observing a form, not necessarily aligning yourself to the form, just like you said. Your time was 20 minutes, you probably were told that. And then you and I had our interview and we kept talking. Other people, it just depends. I mean, when I say it depends, I mean, it really does depend. There's some people I always talk to for an hour. And why? I don't have I need to talk to Leroy longer than Mary because. I don't have a because. I just know as soon as I meet you, I know who you are. I'm not reading your mind. You actually have no mind. That's an illusion. But what I'm seeing is I'm seeing you. And if you think otherwise, then that's fine. For somebody else, or go away, or find somebody that will limit the interview. So you can only have 20 minutes and you have the illusion that you're obeying. More, please.
Is it disrespectful to someone who's scheduled after me if I take up longer time?
There's a little bit of that going on, but also we're looking at your situation. And the other person might be sitting out there. People are used to having somebody go over their interview time and being, you've had that happen. I think everybody in here who has interviews over the last number of years that notices that sometimes doesn't seem to be any breathing room there. And I would just blame Onyo for everything. She's the one who schedules everything. Say, Onyo, why did you do that? So, I'm just saying we do this together as a community, so we work with this together. Some people I never see that there are people right now that never, I wouldn't say never, rarely have interviews with me. Is that wrong? No, it's up to them. I'm here, but while I'm still here, if you're a meditator, it might be a good idea to talk to me once in a while, but it's not required. Unless you're a monk, then you should be showing up a little bit more.
True bowing, if we're feeling fear of interrupting you, or where you don't want to disrespect the time frame that's given, should we push through that to get to the teacher?
In some situations, yes. I've had a few situations, I'm not going to go into them, where I did push to get an interview with Trungpa Rinpoche. I had to fight with his secretary. I didn't fist fight him, but I argued with him. Because he wanted me to tell him what I was going to ask Rinpoche. I told him I wasn't about to do that. I don't need his response. I need to hear it from him. If I hear it from you, then it just discolors everything I'm asking. Because you may be right, you may be wrong, you may be, but he's my guru. I need to talk to him. That was in 1975. I wasn't going to get it. And then the next day, I met him on the path at Shambhala Mountain or Rocky Mountain Dharma Center. And just walked by and said hello. And the next thing I knew, he came back and said, one of his helpers or whatever came and said, Mr. Rome has decided that you can have that interview if you want one, since you've kind of backed off of Berlin. I didn't back off of Berlin, but apparently need an excuse to give me that interview. Why? I don't know. It's a very important interview for me to ask him questions about what was happening in my mind that I didn't want to hear a response from anybody but him. And the response from him really helped me a great deal. So I'm not saying that you're going to have that kind of, what I think they referred to that night before that as some kind of, you're not going to have a summit meeting with your teacher and mocking anybody who wanted to, kind of demanding. I was pretty much demanding, but it's just a situation. I had to talk to him. I knew that somebody with, at that time, hundreds, maybe even thousands of students by 1975. Well, very unlikely. I didn't want to hear it from anyone but him. So I upset people. He gave a lecture the day after I said that to the whole Sangha, hundreds of people. About, and I knew it was about me. Not going to have a summit meeting with your guru. Felt kind of puffed up there. So it'll be a situation where you would, if you need to talk to me about something. I don't know how else to say it. Talk to anybody, anytime. But I can. I don't feel like I've responded to your question in a way that's helping you. Is it, am I, or is it getting to understanding? Okay,
Can I ask another one?
how many?
Another one?
How many?
At least one?
Okay,
Thank you, Valley. If we don't feel welcome to knock on the Hojo door, what is that in us?
that's you're just bullshitting yourself. You're always welcome. But you also have to see it's a situation. You have to, instead of taking it personally, oh, he's not going to talk to me because he's in there with his chisha, which this is what quite often what people say or think. You have no idea what's going on in the Hojo when that door is closed, but you could come up and knock. Instead of just making assumptions like, well, I can't, well, maybe you can, maybe it won't be appropriate, but if you don't knock, then you won't know. And if you knock then and the door doesn't open, or if I say, I can't come right now, come back in a half hour, come back in 20 minutes, or give me a couple minutes or anything. Isn't that conventionally what I say? I don't ever tell somebody like, go away forever or something. But your situation is changing, mine is changing. So we come together and have a situation where you need to talk to me, then I'll try to do that if I can. Do you have any, since you schedule everything, do you have any feedback for people who schedule interviews or the timing in the interview?
It's usually I put a limit of the 20 minutes because that's what's been asked. But if there's an urgency to it, then I would appreciate that as part of, usually requests come to me via text, which is fine. I've got,
Sometimes people say I'd like half an hour, and some people right on here, I'm looking at people right here that when I talk to them, they get an hour. And there's like, oh, they get this because of this. There's no because, there's just, that's what happens.
and often when it's monks or your close students, I leave that open-ended because especially if you haven't seen them in a while.
And also they're able to come in all day long. I have people come knock on the door. If the door is open, can I see it for a minute? And I know it's going to go on 15, 20 minutes. I'm there. I know what that's like. But they're willing to come up and ask. And to ask, I'm going to meet you right in the middle of that. And that might include saying, I can't, I've got to do this or that. So it's very situational. We can all participate in that rather than set up some kind of a standard. I'll take one final question from online on Zoom, if there is one out there, please.
Navid bowing.
Navid.
It seems that most of the time there are words attached to the thoughts. I was wondering if there are thoughts without words. Bowing.
I feel that they're much more subtle, and they're less directional. Words tend to track after each other, like a concept, a sentence, or a phrase, or something like that. Starts to show up that we tend to repeat in order to enhance the believability of something. But as we look at that, if you look at that without pushing it away, like some teachings say, label thoughts and return to the breath or something like that. I did it myself for decades. I taught it. I don't anymore because I think it's very necessary for some people, not everyone, for some people to just watch their thoughts come and go without trying to suppress them or distract yourself from them. So in the situation that you're talking about, what I would say, the best feedback I can give to you is that's awareness. And that won't last. If you don't push it, pull it, shut down on it, passion, aggression, and ignorance, anything that's showing up in your mind stream, and this is true of everyone here. If you do nothing with it, then whatever it is, if it's showing up as some kind of otherness, like your thought, your emotion, your memory, your feeling, won't last because it gets its stability and its longevity and its momentum from being grasped, rejected, or distracted from. If you do none of that, that comes apart. Why? It's an illusion. Even this will come apart. This is an illusion too. It's just a very low frequency illusion. Seems real, doesn't it? Seem real? Yeah, poke yourself. See, seems real. Real? Unreal? Well, you're a Pisces. Okay, I said that was the last question, didn't I? Yes, you have one?
I just have one correction. I think
You're correcting me?
myself, I think the quote earlier that you stated was, I don't care about you. I just want your vote.
Oh, the fellow who's who got they tried to assassinate today.
Yes. I don't care about you. It's not, I don't care how you feel. It's, I
Oh, I
don't
don't
care about
you.
you.
York, yeah.
I just want
I
you.
did, thank you. Thank you, yes, it was close to it, but not, I don't care about you. I just want your vote.
When you're bowing, and along those lines, as aspiring bodhisattvas or practitioners, how can we care about others? We're so self-centered, it seems.
So main practice there is to find out who this is. But at the same time, if you can, there's several practices that take us out towards others, where we pray for others, where people that are passed away, whose photos, or we dedicate some time. I think every time I come to the altar, I think about them, and I think about or reflect on or receive their spirit, if there is such a thing. It's not about existence, non-existence. If you think it is, then you'll be also tied up in right and wrong, correct and incorrect, social stuff. So find out who you are, and you'll see that you're not separate from anyone anymore. This is the path of the Bodhisattva. This is a path this is the vow that transcends karmas, to be with all things. No matter what shows up, don't object, don't agree, and don't look away. It's that simple and that profoundly difficult, because the ego's there and wants results and wants to feel better. You don't care how you feel. If you care how you feel, then you're wound up in, I like it, I don't like it, it should be, it shouldn't be, they did it, I did it, I shouldn't have done that, they shouldn't have done it. Constant turmoil of our culture, our society. Relative truth. I'll take one more from you, Hung, and then I am really going to close.
Yuhong Baoying, thank you. The other day you said what we see is our mind. When I see something negative, not good, does that mean that my mind is negative? Baoying?
Negative. Negative. Did you say negative?
Yes. Yuhong Baoying, I can say one more time my question. I have trouble seeing something, understand what I see which is negative. Baoying.
Okay, so what I'm saying, I would say this as a general feedback for not only for you, but for anyone, is just look at the not understanding. The relative way of working with this in society and our whole education situation is you need to understand it in the way that a person tells you need to understand it this way. It means this, and this is how everything is taught. And what is being taught here is awareness. It's not about figuring things out or understanding. So just seeing that it's negative is enough. You don't have to do anything past that. You don't have to stop that, so you can come up with some concepts about it that'll make you feel more like you understand the negativity. It's just negativity. Now, it may have a story with it of the negativity that someone is bringing to you with their anger, their difficulty, or the anger that might be, or difficulty might be arising in your own mind stream. Please just receive it. Just feel it. Feel it. This is a little bit of a romantic way of saying it, or imaginary way of saying it, but when you feel something, feel it all the way to the center of the earth, because you're not separate from that. You're not just a human form treading around in the dirt. But you're not separate from anything, anywhere. Emotion, feeling, thinking. All of this is to be received, not figured out or pushed away, added to, or understood in the relative way. One more, Yuhong, and that's it.
Yihong Baoying, I just have a follow-up question about what you said. During the heated situation, if I come back to my intention, just receive, and sometimes I just recite for immeasurables, I feel like it distracts me from what I'm supposed to receive. Does that matter?
No, no. Just if you're reciting the four immeasurables, just do that. Now, if I were talking to Augie and he said something a little bit different, it might show up a different way of talking to Augie, or a different way of talking to Chisho or Jishin or anyone here. It'll be different because when I look at you, I'm not saying, like I say many times, I'm not reading your mind. I'm just looking at myself. But I'm looking at someone that doesn't know that we're not separate. So even on the screen, even though I've met you in person a while back, still, even meeting you on the screen is enough to see. So when I hear you talk and I hear what you're saying, I have an idea. When I say an idea, it just shows up. I don't think about it. I don't think hardly at all, but I know what to say to you. And if that resonates with you, then very good. If it doesn't, I've already said earlier, do something else. I can't convince you. I have no proof of anything. I don't need any proof. I have no questions about anything at all. None. They're gone. I had them for years and years and years. They're gone. I don't have any questions for my teacher. I'm not separate from my teacher. He's not separate from me. Neither one of them. Nor are you.
Thank you, Baoying.
Welcome.
May the merit of this penetrate into all places, so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Jiho san chi shifu, shi son bu sa bo sa, moko the 10 directions, the 3 times, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna, Paramita.
O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, please hear us. Please come down out of the light to protect Sokukoji Buddhist Temple Monastery, our Sangha, families, friends, and visitors. Heal everyone who is unhappy, sick, or suffering, and fill them with light.
Thank you, Sokuzan.
You're welcome, Cynthia.